Today's lesson is Christmas in the North and South. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our program. I'm Roger.
And I'm Helen.
And today we are still in the Christmas spirit. Christmas has passed, but it's still the Christmas season here, and we're heading toward New Year, but we're still talking about some Christmas traditions and differences between those traditions in the north and south parts of the world. So last time we talked about some differences, like in the north, they've got pine trees and stuff like that, and they got snow and stuff like that. But in the southern hemisphere, they use different kinds of trees, right?
Right. In the southern hemisphere, they use the Pohotokawa tree, which is a tree that has red blossoms with red petals, and that is the typical image when you think about Christmas in the southern hemisphere, because this tree appears in Christmas cards and also in Christmas songs coming out of New Zealand. And so that's just one difference between the north and the south when we think of Christmas.
Yeah, and they probably use different kinds of Christmas trees in Australia as well, and maybe in Argentina and Chile and South Africa and different places in the southern hemisphere. But hey, who cares about the trees? We want to talk about the food. That's what these holidays are for. Eating, chowing down, and stuffing ourselves silly with food that we're not supposed to eat. But it's the holidays, so we're okay. Go ahead and destroy your diet just for a couple of days. So let's talk about the holiday meal now and how it's different between the hemispheres. Let's read the first part of our lesson right now.
The holiday meal is another important feature of Christmas that differs between the hemispheres. In the United States and some other northern countries, a typical Christmas meal will reflect the winter season and include roast turkey or ham, mashed potatoes, root vegetables, and maybe an apple or pumpkin pie for dessert. By contrast, people in Australia and New Zealand commonly have a barbecue or picnic for Christmas. After a feast that includes grilled prawns and oysters, they might sing some Christmas carols and stay outdoors to enjoy the weather.
大家好，第一部分我们看到单字 feast 这个字是名词，指宴席、盛宴。例如 We celebrated the holiday with a large feast. 我们用盛大的宴席庆祝那个节日。或是 The music festival offered a feast for the ears and was free to everyone in the city. 这场音乐季提供了听觉上的盛宴享受，城里的每一个人免费参加。另外，这个字也可以当动词，指大快朵颐、尽情的吃，后面常接 on 加名词。举例来说 After spending the afternoon cooking, we finally feasted on all the dishes we made. 我们花了整个下午做菜后，终于可以尽情享用我们煮的所有菜肴了。再补充2个相关片语。第一 feast one's eyes on表示尽情观赏、饱览，像是 Sylvia's friends feasted their eyes on the new watch she got for her birthday. Sylvia 的朋友尽情欣赏她生日得到的手表。第二 either feast or famine. F-A-M-I-N-E, either feast or famine. 其中的 either 可以省略，表示生意不是极好就是极坏。我们可以说 It's either feast or famine with our business. One moment we have no clients, and then we have more than we can handle. 我们的生意不是极好就是极坏，一下子我们都没有客人，然后又让我们忙不过来。再来，我们看到动词 grill， 意思是烧烤，像是 Justin grilled the shrimp on the barbecue. Justin 在烤架上烤虾子。另外，除了上面的意思，这个字也可以指盘问、审问。例如The detective grilled the suspect in an attempt to get a confession. 警探拷问嫌犯，企图获得招供。接着，我们看到单字 carol， 这个字是名词，意思是圣诞颂歌。例如 My favorite way of celebrating Christmas is listening to carols during the holiday. 我最喜欢的庆祝圣诞节的方式，就是在假期期间聆听圣诞颂歌。
And welcome back. So today we're talking about Christmas in the North and South. Now, the holiday meal is another important feature of Christmas that differs between the hemispheres. So we talked about other differences between the North and the South. We looked at trees and we looked at different images associated with Christmas. Here, the holiday meal is also something that differs between these two parts of the world. And here the word differ means to be different from something in some way. So I could say, for instance, the homework assignments did not differ between the students. In other words, all students in the class received the same homework.
Yep, differ as a verb. We usually learn the word different. Yeah, that's different. That's not the same thing, but here differ is being used as a verb. This reminds me of a phrase that we often use when you don't agree with somebody. Someone says something is the case and you say, "Oh, I beg to differ. I don't agree with that. I have a different opinion." So again here, the holiday meal differs between the hemispheres. It's different in the North and South. Okay, so in the USA and some parts of Europe or in other northern countries, a typical Christmas meal will reflect the winter season and include roast turkey or ham, mashed potatoes, root vegetables, and maybe an apple or pumpkin pie for dessert. So yes, the meal, of course, will reflect the kind of food that is available in the local area, especially during the winter months. Okay, so here we've got the word reflect, which often refers to light reflecting off a surface. The reason the moon is so bright is because the sunlight reflects off the moon.
That's right, but here reflect is being used in a different way. It means to show the existence or the nature of something. So I could say, for instance, the statement made by the company I work for does not reflect my own views. What the company that I work for said about a particular topic is not what I think about that particular topic, or at least not necessarily. So in this particular instance, talking about the Christmas meal will usually reflect the season of Christmas. So if in the North, Christmas takes place during the winter, you're going to probably find a lot of winter vegetables and fruits on the dining table. And if you're in the South, you're going to find more summery fruits and vegetables and things that exist in that particular season on your Christmas dining table.
Yeah, turkey, for example, that is a large bird in the northern hemisphere, at least in the Americas. But yeah, you can hunt them pretty easily in the winter, and they're big. They've got lots of meat. Although the meat is kind of dry, we will say that, so you need to have some kind of gravy on turkey meat. It's not the best meat in the world. And you also might have a Christmas ham. That can be quite tasty. Those mashed potatoes, that's also something that my mother used to make every Christmas. And, of course, pie was traditional. Pumpkin pie, of course, was one of my favorites, along with apple pie, sometimes cherry pie as well. And, of course, root vegetables were quite common. I think onion is a kind of root vegetable.
Right, and also carrots and daikon, beets, these are all root vegetables. Now, root vegetables, you can find those in any season. But in the North, in the Northern Hemisphere, usually for Christmas and for Thanksgiving, you will have more root vegetables than you will have summery vegetables. And that is just a tradition there.
And, of course, here in the next sentence it says, by contrast, people in Australia and New Zealand commonly have a barbecue or picnic for Christmas. So if you're comparing two things and those two things are different, then you can use this phrase, by contrast. So I could say, my wife enjoys Chinese food, but by contrast, my daughter prefers Western food.
Or, I love root vegetables. By contrast, my brother doesn't like them at all. So here we are contrasting or comparing two different places and what is commonly considered Christmas food in these particular places. So in Australia and New Zealand, Christmas takes place in the summer when it's around 30 degrees, 35 degrees. So people tend to spend a lot of time outside. And when you eat outside, you will probably tend to have a barbecue or a picnic for Christmas.
Yeah, I think of barbecues as taking place in the summertime and not so much in the wintertime, which of course is summer in the southern hemisphere. So that sounds kind of weird, putting a shrimp on the barbie for Christmas. But that's what the Aussies do there. And after a feast that includes grilled prawns and oysters, they might sing some Christmas carols and stay outdoors to enjoy the weather. So, of course, in both hemispheres, they'll have a feast, which is a big meal. Of course, you guys here in Taiwan are preparing for your New Year's Eve feast, which will take place in just a couple of months or so. And that includes grilled prawns. A prawn's kind of like a big shrimp, right?
Yes, I believe so. And it has more meat. In the southern hemisphere, especially in Australia, people like to put prawns on the barbecue and eat barbecued or grilled prawns. And in Christmas time, people there also like to eat oysters. Now, oysters is something that people either tend to love or hate or try to avoid. They're a type of shellfish that is often eaten raw with lemon. Here in Taiwan, of course, oysters are used to make oyster omelet.
Right, and of course, oysters are very sensitive to their environment, so don't be noisy around them because what kind of annoys an oyster? Okay, that's just a little tongue twister I thought I would throw in there. But indeed, down there in the southern hemisphere, they might sing some Christmas carols. Santa Claus is coming to town. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. Oh, Christmas tree, oh, Christmas tree. Those are all Christmas carols or Christmas songs.
Right. Being from the north, I just think it's so strange to have a barbecue and then sing Christmas carols because in my mind, people sing Christmas carols when they're inside a house, around a fireplace, when it's snowing outside. So this is a very, very interesting perspective.
It doesn't sound like very cool music to play at a beach. I would expect to hear, Jan and Dean or the Beach Boys or something like that. But that's what they do. They sing those Christmas carols and they stay outdoors and get themselves a nice Christmas tan. Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's talk some more about how Christmas traditions differ between North and South. Now we'll talk about Christmas activities.
While the abundance of ice and snow in some parts of the Northern Hemisphere creates the perfect conditions for activities such as ice skating and sledding, people in warmer countries might spend Christmas camping, swimming, or simply lounging on the beach. In fact, in Sydney, Australia, visiting Bondi Beach on December 25th has become somewhat of a tradition.
第二部分，我们看到名词 abundance 指大量、充足、丰富，像是 an abundance of 就表示大量的、丰富的。我们可以说 There is an abundance of wildlife found in the forest. 森林里可以找到丰富的野生生物。另外，补充一个相关片语，名词加上 an abundance 表示丰富的大量的举例来说 The farmer's market has fresh fruits and vegetables in abundance. 农夫市集有大量的新鲜水果跟蔬菜。最后我们看到单字 lounge 这个字是动词，指慵懒的坐着或躺着。例如 Jill's cat likes nothing better than to lounge in the sun. Jill 的猫最喜欢在太阳底下懒懒的躺着。另外这个字也可以当名词，指饭店或机场的休息室、候机厅。我们可以说 Kevin waited for his family in the hotel lounge. Kevin 在饭店休息室等待他的家人。
So we've looked at Christmas food, or what is eaten for Christmas in the North and the South, and now we're going to look at Christmas activities. While the abundance of ice and snow in some parts of the Northern Hemisphere creates the perfect conditions for activities such as ice skating and sledding, people in warmer countries might spend Christmas camping, swimming, or simply lounging on the beach. So because of the difference in weather and temperatures, people do different activities for Christmas in different different parts of the world. So in the Northern Hemisphere, ice skating is very popular because of the abundance of ice, which means there is a lot of ice, a lot of snow, so people can also go sledding. But people in the South can't do that because there's no ice or snow. So what they do instead is enjoy the warm weather. And what better way is there to enjoy warm weather than to go camping, swimming, or simply lounging on the beach? That is, relaxing, lying down, or leaning against a rock or in the sand while you're on the beach and relaxing that way.
Yes, this brings back memories for me, of course. Christmas was a great time to go ice skating at the local ice rink, or to go cross-country skiing. We didn't really have a lot of hills where I grew up in Iowa. There were just flat hills there, so we didn't get to do too much sledding there. But yeah, skating was a lot of fun. And of course, in warmer countries, they're going to do something different there. They don't have an abundance of ice and snow. They've got a lot of sand and sunshine. So yeah, they're going to enjoy camping and swimming and just hanging out at the beach. Lounging here just refers to relaxing in a certain place and not really doing anything serious.
In fact, in Sydney, Australia, visiting Bondi Beach on December 25th has become somewhat of a tradition. So we know now that in Sydney, Australia, people tend to want to go visit Bondi Beach, which is a beach close to the city of Sydney, on Christmas Day. And this has become somewhat of a tradition. In other words, it's not really a tradition. Not everyone does it. It's somewhat or a bit of a tradition.
It is a tradition for a lot of people, but not necessarily everybody in Australia. And so indeed, if you go to Bondi Beach, there will be a lot of people there, but not everybody's going to be there. Okay, it is somewhat of a tradition there. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Now let's move on to the third part and talk about Santa Claus.
Unless Santa Claus begins wearing sunglasses and shorts to deliver his gifts, Christmas in the northern and southern hemispheres will likely continue to have different characteristics. But one thing about Christmas stays the same. It's a time for family and friends, and that is true no matter where you are.
Now, unless Santa Claus begins wearing sunglasses and shorts to deliver his gifts, Christmas in the northern and southern hemispheres will likely continue to have different characteristics. So something drastic, something special has to happen before Christmas in the north and south can become similar to each other. So in this particular case, that drastic or very special event would be Santa Claus putting on a pair of sunglasses and shorts instead of his red suit and his hat to deliver gifts to people in the South.
Indeed, okay. And of course, these places will continue to have different characteristics or qualities or things that make them unique and special. But one thing about Christmas stays the same. It's a time for family and friends, and that is true no matter where you are. Yes, indeed, that does sound true. Christmas is a time to get together with your family and with your friends. And yeah, that's what they do both in northern and southern countries. I suppose that's what you do here in Taiwan as well, Helen. Get together with your family and friends?
Sure, Christmas is a time for family and friends, although here people tend to go out. They may not stay at home and have the family feast, and usually there is no turkey. The meal is more of a traditional Taiwanese meal, and then maybe afterwards we might go out and walk around and look at the lights and enjoy Christmas that way. So I would say that Taiwan has its own tradition of Christmas that is particular, not entirely reflective of the Northern Hemisphere or the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah, that is, of course, something I really enjoy about Christmas in the USA, where I'm from, the lights, okay? Everybody in my hometown tries to outdo each other with their Christmas decorations and their lights on their houses. So a tradition is to go for a drive and look at all the different kinds of lights that people have set up on their houses. It can be quite creative, especially if you look at those lights at night. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分有一个句子写到People in warmer countries might spend Christmas camping, swimming, or simply lounging on the beach. 那这边我们是来复习动词 spend 的用法。spend 它表示花费，那是以人为主词，用来表达花费时间、金钱、精力等等。那它的句型是Somebody spend 时间、金钱或者是精力，然后 on 加名词，或者是呢不要用 on 加名词，你也可以直接用动名词。例如 I spent 3 hours on the internet， 也可以说 I spent 3 hours surfing the internet， 我花了3个小时在上网。好，那补充一下，如果是要表达某事物花了某人多少钱，某事物要价多少钱，我们常常是用动词 cost 来表达。cost 意思是价钱为多少，花费了多少金钱，那它是以事物来当主词，常用的句型是 something cost somebody 加上金额，或者是 something cost 加上金额，可以用来表达某物花了某人多少钱，某物要价多少钱。例如 The dress costs $800， 那件洋装要价$800。那至于要表达某事物花了某人多少的时间精力，我们常常会用动词 take 来表达。那么这个 take 它就是指花费或是需要多少的时间精力等等。常见的句型是 something take 或是 something take somebody， 然后再加时间或是精力，或者是你也可以用 it take 时间或精力再接不定词。那我们来造2个例句。假设我们说 good work takes time， 就是说好的作品是需要花时间的。 It takes a lot of time and effort to master a foreign language， 就是说要精通外国语言是需要花费很多时间精力的。好，再来看到课文最后一句，他写到But one thing about Christmas stays the same. It's a time for family and friends, and that is true no matter where you are. 这边要介绍的是 no matter 加 WH 疑问词的用法。No matter 加 WH 疑问词是用来引导让步副词子句，去表达无论怎么样，不管怎么样。举例来说No matter what 相当于 whatever， 表示无论什么。No matter where 相当于 wherever， 就表示无论何处。No matter when 相当于 whenever， 表示无论何时。No matter who 相当于 whoever， 表示无论是谁。那么还有像 no matter which 相当于 whichever， 就是无论哪一个。要特别注意的是，这些用法呢所引导这个副词子句可以摆在主要子句之前或是之后。那放在主要子句的前面时，要记得加逗号哦。例如 No matter who you are, you're welcome here。 也可以说 Whoever you are, you're welcome here。 无论你是谁，我们都欢迎你。好，以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Differ. John's political views differ greatly from those of his parents. Reflect. This article reflects the opinions of the writer only.Feast. For Chinese New Year, my mom always prepares a feast for the whole family. Oyster. In addition to their famous fish and chips, the restaurant serves delicious raw oysters. Characteristic. A characteristic of the camel is its ability to manage without water for long periods.
Discussion starter starts now!
Okay, here is our discussion starter for today. And the question is, which Christmas celebration is more appealing to you?
Well, I really like the idea of celebrating Christmas with a barbecue on the beach because I like warm weather, so I will look for any excuse to be in a place that has warm weather.
I wouldn't want to spend Christmas in Australia or in New Zealand and on the beach because I hate the beach. I hate getting sand on my feet. It never totally washes off, and it always gets into the car, and it always gets into my swimsuit, which can be quite painful. So yeah, you guys can keep your Bondi Beach barbecue. I'll stay inside and look at those chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I'm Helen.
See you next time.